Now, the US Secretary of State is on an official tour of Africa at the moment, with Ethiopia his first stop. Ahead of the trip, though, Rex Tillerson here claimed the continent's being exploited by China, an issue that is expected to dominate the upcoming talks. Russia's foreign minister, who's also on a tour of Africa, had this to say about Tillerson's remark.
I didn't know that Rex Tillerson is an expert in Africa-China relations, but I think it's a little tactless when on a visit to talk about the relationships of your hosts with other countries, especially in such a negative way.
Igor Zhdanov takes a look now at whether Africa will actually become a new stage for rivalry between the US and China.
The United States wants Africa back in its pocket, which is, all things considered, a bit of a tall order. Just a few months ago, African nations learned that, according to Trump, they, well, to paraphrase the president, kinda stink. Now the State Department is on a bridge-building mission.
We partner with African countries by incentivizing good governance to meet long-term security and development goals. This stands in stark contrast to China's approach, which encourages dependency, using opaque contracts, predatory loan practices, and corrupt deals.
China, you see, is something of a major headache for Washington. Beijing has been courting African nations for years. The Asian powerhouse is involved in crucial infrastructure projects there. It's invested billions of dollars in a railroad linking the continent from east to west, effectively opening the door for Pan-African trade. Kenya is one country in particular that has benefited from China's cash injections. It got its own railway, the largest infrastructure development since its independence more than half a century ago. But even this pales in comparison to a Chinese construction firm's ambitions in South Africa to build an $84 billion city. Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of aid, education investments, a Chinese TV channel for the African audience. Beijing is going all in here. Its soft power strategy has already made China second most popular destination for African students. And its military is in Africa too. Last year, China opened its first overseas base with a facility in Djibouti. The same year, it held joint drills with Tanzania. Chinese soldiers have already been here for a few years. Its peacekeepers have been involved in missions across Central Africa. So is it really that much of a surprise that some African nations prefer the Chinese way over America's sweet talk?
The Chinese has been front and center in providing us with the roads we have in this country.
China has developed optimum capacity in this regard. So we are working very hard together, and we believe that working together would bring about mutually beneficial relationship.
China's become successful in Africa because China tends to favor and tends to stress civilian projects. Some years ago, the first President Bush said the United States had more will than wallet, which means it's not able to offer the kinds of aid that China is so generously providing. There is a real fear in Washington that China is in the passing lane, and that sooner rather than later, the Chinese economy, if it is not already, will be larger than the United States economy, which will have monumental impact on the balance of forces globally.
Right now, China has outrun the United States in Africa on every front, and it will take more than just words for Washington to elbow its way past Beijing. Igor Zhdanov, RT.